What's up, Knife World? This is Ryan with Knife Pivot Lube. I'm here today for a video that I thought would be kind of fun. We're going to talk about some of the most frequently asked questions that we get here at KPL. We're going to run through the answers and get you guys all the information you need to use KPL to its full potential. Starting off the video today with what's in your pocket. I today am carrying a Spyderco Delica. Is this my favorite pocket knife? Yeah, probably. I love the Delica, and this Delica in particular is my very favorite. An exclusive in Spyderco crew wear with a, it's not DLC coating, but I feel like it's a CDN coating or something like that. Anyway, very much like the DLC coating that you would typically get on a blade. Seems to be just as durable, and my very favorite steel crew wear. I love this knife because it is just so dang thin and so ergonomic. It's perfect. I love it. We're going to keep it here to help us out as we go through the video today. So to get started, I've got a list of 10 or so questions. We're going to go through the answers to all of those. All right, let's get started. The first question, and one that we get all the time, is Knife Pivot Lube food safe? The answer is we have not paid to have Knife Pivot Lube certified with any of the accrediting bodies to prove that it is food safe, but KPL is essentially non-toxic unless you actually get it somehow injected into your veins or something like that. So, you know, incidental food contact is not a big deal. Just as an example, I've got a blade here. You know, you wouldn't want to cut an apple with a bunch of KPL sitting on your blade, but if you've had a chance just even to wipe your blade down with a microfiber cloth or something like that, that tiny bit of residue that's left on the blade, it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be toxic. Limited food contact, not a big deal. Let's get that question out of the way. Is Knife Pivot Lube safe to use on my knife? The answer is yes, invariably yes. Knife Pivot Lube is safe to use on your knife. It's not going to harm nylon, like on this Spyderco, in the handle scales. It's certainly not going to harm metals like aluminum, titanium, steel, you know, natural bone type handle materials, and it will not damage your bearings or washers either. So Knife Pivot Lube, safe to use on G10s. Knife Pivot Lube is safe to use on your knife. Did Knife Pivot Lube? Unfortunately, I can't give you guys all the answers there. I will go ahead and link down in the description our safety data sheet. For those of you who are technically inclined, you can go ahead and look at what specifically is in our product and dig up some more information there on how to safely handle KPL, etc. But you know, to be brief, in Knife Pivot Lube, we have got a blend of synthetic lubricants that we found to be optimal for knives. In addition, we have added some wickability modifiers to make sure that Knife Pivot Lube is going to very quickly wick into the very tight, you know, low tolerance spaces on your knife. Corrosion inhibitors to help prevent rust and keep corrosion off the metals of your knife. We've also added a scent and a little bit of color because we like that red. Which leads us to our next question. Why does KPL smell so good? We add that scent to KPL. We looked at a bunch of different options. We found this one and it seems to be a hit. There are a few people who've not been approving, but for the most part, the scent of KPL is one of its selling points. We like it and we are going to keep it there. Can I use Knife Pivot Lube as a sharpening or honing oil? This means as you're sharpening your knife, if you are a freestyle sharpener, you probably use something like a bench stone or a small sharpening stone. Some people like to use those with dish soap. I happen to be one of those people. I use a bit of dish soap and water to keep the swarf that comes off the blade as I'm sharpening out of the crevices of that stone. But Knife Pivot Lube works excellently if you are actually using your stone as an oil stone. It keeps that metal swarf in suspension, just like it does grit and contaminants in your pivot. When I use an oil stone, I don't have very many of them, I use Knife Pivot Lube as well because it works better than the honing oil that you're going to find at an outdoors or camping store. Can I use knife pivot lube on tools besides knives? Absolutely. Knife pivot lube behaves really well with all different kinds of steel and tools. I personally use it on all of my wrenches, my pliers. I have some firearms, I use it on those. I really like it for bicycle cables because I think it works better than what you'll pick up at the bicycle store. I kind of use it everywhere. Of course, we formulated the product specifically for knives, but that does not mean that it won't work well on other items. Door hinges, this stuff is the bomb. It keeps your door from squeaking, and it does so for a very, very, very long time. I prefer it very much to a product like WD-40, which in my experience will tend to gum up and start to solidify over time. It just gets kind of nasty. Use your knife pivot lube. It is killer in those other applications besides knives. Looks like my Delica could use a little sharpening, speaking of. Will knife pivot lube dry out over time? Knife pivot lube will not dry out or gum up. I mentioned that WD-40 sometimes can, knife pivot lube won't. We don't include any solvents in this product, which means there's nothing in knife pivot lube that's going to evaporate. Additionally, knife pivot lube is highly resistant to oxidation, so it's not going to form the slime, the sticky gunk that you'll get if you use something like vegetable oil in your knife. Please don't do that. It's not good. Things like olive oil are not made to be lubricants, metal on metal. They're not that great as lubricants to start, but they will dry out, oxidize, and gum up over time. They will go rancid and your knife will smell. It's not a good idea. Don't do it. What is Knife Pivot Lube's favorite knife steel? I think I already mentioned it. I am a huge fan of tool steels. Crewware is my absolute favorite. I'm a huge fan of steels like A2, D2. I have a Lion steel here. This is in Sleipner, which is kind of an A2, D2 analog, maybe fitting in the space between those two steels. I love this stuff. CTS XHP, another one of my huge favorites. I am not the kind of guy who likes the ultra wearing steel, so you're not going to find me carrying something like Maximet. I like to sharpen my knives. I do it by hand. Those steels don't work out well for me. So tool steels it is, CPM Crewware. Absolute favorite. I love this stuff. How did we come up with Knife Pivot Lube? I had picked up some lubricant experience on the job. I have an engineering degree by background, and I'm a knife guy. And as I looked around at the options that were out there, I didn't find anything that really met with my standards. And I thought to myself, I can make something better than anything else out there on the market, given what I know. And so I went ahead and started doing that. I sourced a bottle for Knife Pivot Lube from the manufacturer. I worked really hard to find one that wouldn't leak even in EDC usage. You can pop Knife Pivot Lube in your pocket and carry it around with you. It's not going to leak in your pocket. It's not going to get everywhere. We were really happy with it, particularly because it had the built-in applicator, that little needle applicator there. My wife is a graphic designer. She helped me out with the logo. And I have a friend in the printing business who helped me work on labels and other materials to put this all together. So I am thrilled to be able to offer something awesome to the knife world because we all need it. All right, coming down to our last question. What is coming up in the future for Knife Pivot Lube? We have a ton on the table for ourselves in 2021. We will be, unless something goes wrong, at Blade Show 2021, so please check us out there. We are working on launching a new product. No additional information on that right now, but in the very near term, you will see new packaging for Knife Pivot Lube that we think will make it easier for our knife shops and other retailers to stock the product. Hey, thanks everyone for visiting us on today's video. Just to run through the knives I had here again, as you know, Spyderco Delica, love this guy. This is a Lion steel, one of the Maletta designs. This is the SR2 with aluminum handles in red. It's a beater, and you can tell by the wear that this thing's experienced, but I like it. I like the steel. Again, tool steels are my favorite. Finally, Northwood's knife. Most days I carry both a more modern folding knife, like one of these two, along with a traditional folder in my pocket. Just like how I like the tool steels, I actually really like the simple carbon steels, and these guys from Great Eastern / Northwoods come in $10.95, which is great and easily sharpenable steel. So that's what we've got. Thanks everyone. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe for our future videos. This is Ryan signing off.